The research vessel Horizon's Edge moved slowly through the dark space around. Kithara 7, Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge looking at the planet below. It looked peaceful from up here, with green forests and blue oceans. But Webb knew better. This planet had killed everyone who tried to land on it. Dr. Lyra Kess walked up beside him. Her blue skin was flickering with worry patterns that all Alterians showed when they were scared. She carried a datapad filled with information about the planet's deadliest creature. "Captain, I must warn you again about the Shadow Maws," she said in her careful voice. 3 different species have tried to explore this planet. None of them came back alive. Webb nodded but did not look worried. His human crew was busy checking their equipment and talking about the mineral readings they were getting from the planet. They seemed more interested in what they could mine than what might kill them. "Tell me about these creatures again," Webb said. Dr. Kess touched her datapad and holographic images appeared in the air. The Shadow Maw looked like a giant snake but with 6 legs and fangs that glowed with poison. Its black scales seemed to eat the light around it. "They are 12 feet long and extremely fast," Dr. Kess explained. "But the real danger is their venom. It kills any living thing within 3 minutes. We have tested it on samples from 40 different species. Nothing survives." Tom Bradley, the security officer, looked up from checking his weapon. "How many of these things are down there?" "Our scans show hundreds of them in the forest areas," Dr. Kess replied. "They hunt in packs and they are very smart." The Corvin expedition tried to use their natural poison resistance. It did not help them. The Corvin were known across the galaxy for being able to survive almost any toxin. If the Shadow Maw venom could kill them, it could kill anything. "What about the emergency medical treatment?" Webb asked. Dr. Kess shook her head. "We have the best anti-venom equipment that Alterian science can make, but it has never worked against Shadow Maw poison. The venom breaks down the nervous system too fast for any treatment to help." A loud beeping sound came from the communication station. Lieutenant Ross turned around with a worried look on his face. "Captain, we are getting a distress signal from the planet's surface." "Put it through," Webb ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was filled with panic. It belonged to Dr. Vorth, a Corvin scientist who had been leading the survey team that landed 2 days ago. "This is Dr. Vorth to any ship in range. We are trapped in our emergency shelter. The Shadow Maws have found us and they are trying to break through our barriers. Our defensive systems are failing. We have maybe 1 hour before they get inside. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need immediate evacuation." The transmission was full of background noise. They could hear scratching sounds and what sounded like metal being torn apart. "How many of you are left?" Webb asked into the microphone. 4 of us," Dr. Vorth replied. "We lost 2 team members yesterday when the Shadow Maws attacked our camp. They died so fast. The venom killed them before they could even scream." Dr. Kess grabbed Webb's arm. "Captain, we cannot risk a rescue mission. If we land on that planet, we will all die. No species has ever survived contact with those creatures." Webb looked at his crew. The humans all seemed ready to go down to the planet. They had that look in their eyes that Dr. Kess had learned to recognize. Humans always wanted to help others, even when it was dangerous. "What kind of shelter are you in?" Webb asked Dr. Vorth. "Military-grade emergency pod," came the reply. "But these creatures are smart. They are working together to find weak spots in our defenses. The metal is starting to bend under their attacks." On the bridge screens, they could see the location of the Corvin shelter. It was in a clearing surrounded by the crystal trees that made Kithara 7 famous. The trees were beautiful, but they also provided perfect hiding spots for predators. "Dr. Kess, how fast can these Shadow Maws move?" Bradley asked. "Our data shows they can run at 60 miles per hour and climb trees even faster," she replied. "They can also jump up to 30 feet. There is nowhere to hide from them on the surface." Webb made his decision. "Bradley, get your gear ready. We are going down there." "Sir, that is suicide," Dr. Kess said. "I cannot allow you to throw your lives away." These creatures have killed some of the toughest warriors in the galaxy. Maybe, Webb said. But we are not going to leave those people to die without trying to help them. Dr. Kess looked at the human crew with confusion. They all seemed calm about going to face creatures that had terrorized multiple species. She had studied humans for years but still did not understand their willingness to risk everything for strangers. "If you insist on this mission, I am coming with you," she said. "Someone needs to document what happens for scientific records." "No," Webb said firmly. "You stay on the ship. If we do not make it back, you need to warn other ships to stay away from this planet." The rescue shuttle was ready within 20 minutes. Webb, Bradley, and 2 other security officers checked their weapons one more time. Dr. Kess handed them emergency medical kits that contain the most advanced anti-venom treatment available. "These will not save you if you are bitten," she warned them. "But they might buy you a few extra minutes." As the shuttle launched toward the planet's surface, Dr. Kess watched from the bridge. She had seen the data on Shadowmaw attacks dozens of times. Every single encounter ended the same way. The creatures would bite their victims and then watch them die in agony as the venom destroyed their bodies. She wondered if she would be watching 4 more deaths today. The humans seemed confident, but confidence meant nothing against a creature that could kill with a single bite. In less than an hour, she would either be helping with a successful rescue or recording another tragedy for the scientific databases. The shuttle disappeared into the atmosphere of Kithara 7, carrying 4 humans, toward what every expert in the galaxy believed was certain death. The shuttle landed hard in the clearing near the Corvin shelter. Captain Webb and his team could see the emergency pod about 200 yards away. It looked like a silver egg that had been dropped from space. Deep scratches covered its surface, and several sections were dented inward. "Movement in the trees," Bradley reported, pointing his scanner at the crystal forest around them. "I count at least 6 large heat signatures circling our position." Webb activated his communicator. "Dr. Vorth, we are on the ground. Are you still secure in there?" "For now," came the shaky reply. "But I can see 3 Shadowmaws right outside. Our main viewport. They know you are here. They are looking in your direction." The humans began moving toward the shelter, keeping their weapons ready. The crystal trees around them were beautiful but created too many shadows where predators could hide. Each tree was 30 feet tall and made of what looked like blue glass. Light passed through them in strange ways that made it hard to see clearly. "There," Officer Mills whispered, pointing to their left. A massive shape moved between the trees. It was bigger than any snake Webb had ever seen, with 6 legs that moved in perfect coordination. Its black scales seemed to absorb the light from the crystal trees. Most frightening were its eyes, which glowed with intelligence. "That thing is watching us," Bradley said quietly. "It is trying to figure out what we are." The Shadowmaw emerged from behind a tree and faced the humans directly. It was even more terrifying in person than in the holographic images. 12 feet of pure predator with fangs that dripped glowing venom onto the ground. Where the venom touched the earth, small plants immediately withered and died. Inside the shelter, Dr. Vorth was watching through his viewport. "Human team, you need to back away slowly. Do not make any sudden movements. That creature can strike faster than you can react," but Webb was not backing away. He was studying the creature with curiosity. "It is magnificent," he said into his communicator. "Look at how perfectly designed it is for hunting." Dr. Kess, listening from the ship above, felt her blood turn cold. "Captain, please follow Dr. Vorth's advice. Move away from that creature immediately." The Shadowmaw tilted its head, studying these strange new visitors. It had killed Corvin, Alterians and Veltar with ease. But these beings seemed different. They showed no fear scent, and their body language was all wrong for prey animals. Bradley was setting up a defensive perimeter when another Shadowmaw appeared on their right side. This one was slightly smaller but moved with the same deadly grace. Both creatures began to circle the humans, looking for the best angle of attack. 2 targets now, Mills reported. "Should we fire?" "Hold your fire," Webb ordered. Let us see what they do first. What happened next surprised everyone. The first, Shadow Maw launched itself through the air directly at Bradley. Its mouth opened wide, showing fangs as long as daggers. The creature moved so fast it was almost a blur. Bradley tried to dodge, but the Shadow Maw was too quick. Its fangs sank deep into his shoulder, right through his protective clothing. The creature held on for several seconds, pumping massive amounts of venom into his body. Before releasing him and jumping back to watch him die, Dr. Vorth screamed into his communicator. "He is bitten. Get him medical treatment now. You have less than 3 minutes." Dr. Kess was already calculating how long it would take to get the shuttle back to the ship for emergency treatment, but she knew it was hopeless. No medical facility in the galaxy could treat Shadow Maw envenomation once symptoms began. Bradley stumbled backward, looking down at the 2 puncture wounds in his shoulder. Blood was running down his arm and the bite marks were already turning purple. Everyone waited for him to collapse as the venom attacked his nervous system. Instead, Bradley reached into his medical kit and pulled out a basic bandage. "Well, that is annoying," he said in a calm voice. He pressed the bandage against the wounds to stop the bleeding. "Feels like a bee sting." The Shadow Maw that had bitten him stopped moving. Its head tilted to one side as if confused. This prey animal should be convulsing on the ground by now. Instead, it was standing upright and seemed only mildly irritated. "Bradley, how do you feel?" Webb asked urgently. "Fine, Captain. The bite stings a little, but it is nothing serious." Bradley flexed his shoulder to test the range of motion. "Actually, it is starting to feel tingly now, kind of pleasant." Dr. Kess was staring at her medical scanners in disbelief. According to her readings, Bradley's bloodstream contained enough Shadow Maw venom to kill a dozen Corvin warriors. But his vital signs showed only mild elevation. Like someone who had just climbed a flight of stairs, the second Shadow Maw decided to test these strange creatures for itself. It darted forward and bit Bradley in the leg just above the knee. Again it held on and injected a full dose of venom before releasing its grip. This time Bradley actually laughed. "Okay, now it is more like a tingle," he said, looking down at the new bite marks. "You got any siblings? This is actually kind of fun." Both Shadow Maws backed away, clearly confused by this unexpected reaction. In their experience, everything that lived died quickly after receiving their venom. These creatures were acting like the venom was harmless. "Impossible," Dr. Vorth whispered from his shelter. "No one survives Shadow Maw venom." "No one?" The larger Shadow Maw tried a different approach. It struck at Webb this time, biting him on the forearm. Webb grabbed the creature behind its head while it was biting him, like someone handling a large pet snake. "Easy there, buddy," Webb said, as the Shadow Maw bit him repeatedly on the arm. "You are really not very effective, are you?" The venom had no visible effect on Webb either. The bite marks turned slightly red, but there was no swelling, no convulsions, and definitely no death. If anything, Webb seemed amused by the whole situation. Dr. Kess was frantically running medical scans on both humans. Her equipment kept giving her the same impossible results. Both men had lethal concentrations of venom in their blood, but their bodies were functioning normally. Better than normally, actually. Their immune systems seemed to be treating the deadly toxin like a mild irritant. "This cannot be happening," she whispered to herself, inside the shelter. The 4 Corvin scientists were pressed against their viewport, watching in amazement as the humans casually dealt with creatures that had haunted their nightmares for generations. Dr. Vorth activated his emergency transmitter and began broadcasting to the entire galaxy. "This is Dr. Vorth on Cathara 7. I am witnessing something that should be impossible. Human beings appear to be completely immune to Shadow Maw venom. The message would reach every major species within hours. But for now, in this clearing surrounded by crystal trees, 2 humans were petting creatures that had been the galaxy's most feared predators just minutes ago." Dr. Kess stared at her medical scanners with growing disbelief. The readings made no scientific sense. Both Captain Webb and Officer Bradley had enough Shadow Maw venom in their bloodstreams to kill an entire Corvin military unit. Yet they were walking around like nothing had happened. "Run the scan again," she ordered her assistant back on the ship. There must be an equipment malfunction. But the third scan gave the same impossible results. The humans were not just surviving the venom. They seemed completely unaffected by it. Their heart rates were normal, their brain activity was stable, and their blood chemistry showed only minor changes that looked more like a mild allergic reaction than deadly poisoning down on the planet's surface. The rescue mission had turned into something unprecedented. The four Corvin scientists had emerged from their emergency shelter and were watching in amazement as Captain Webb scratched one of the shadow maws behind what might have been its ears. "In 40 years of xenobiology research, I have never seen anything like this," Dr. Vorth said quietly. His reptilian features showed the same confusion that his colleagues were feeling. "These creatures have killed members of every species that has encountered them." Bradley was now sitting on the ground with the smaller shadow maw coiled around his shoulders like an oversized pet snake. The creature seemed as confused as everyone else but was not trying to bite him anymore. Instead, it was making a low humming sound that might have been contentment. "They are actually kind of friendly once they realize the venom does not work," Bradley reported to Dr. Kess. "This one keeps trying to lick my face." "That should be melting your skin off," Dr. Vorth said in a shaky voice. Shadow maw saliva contains the same toxins as their venom, just in lower concentrations. Webb looked up from where he was examining the larger creature. "It just feels warm and tingly, like a mild heating pad." Dr. Kess was already transmitting her preliminary findings to the Alterian Science Council. She knew they would not believe the data without seeing it for themselves. No known species had ever shown resistance to shadow maw venom, let alone complete immunity. "Dr. Kess," came a voice from her communication station, "this is Science Director Poulter. We have received your transmission. Please confirm that your medical equipment is functioning properly." "I have run full diagnostics 3 times," Dr. Kess replied. "All equipment is working perfectly. The humans are genuinely immune to the venom." There was a long pause before the science director responded. "That is impossible. Our theoretical models show that shadow maw venom targets the basic nervous system functions that all carbon-based life forms share. No creature should be able to survive exposure." Perhaps human biology is more different than we thought," Dr. Kess suggested. She was watching her screens as more shadow maws emerged from the crystal forest. Instead of attacking, they seemed curious about these strange beings who did not die when the news was spreading across the galactic communication networks faster than anyone had expected. Dr. Vorth's emergency broadcast had been picked up by monitoring stations throughout the sector. Within 2 hours, representatives from 12 different species were demanding more information. The first response came from the Brithan Military Command. The warrior species had lost an entire battalion to shadow maws 3 years earlier, when they tried to claim Cathara 7 for its mineral wealth. "Human vessel, this is War Chief Draker. We require immediate confirmation of your immunity claims. If humans can survive shadow maw attacks, we must discuss new territorial agreements." Similar messages were flooding in from across the galaxy. The Veltar Mining Consortium wanted to hire human workers for dangerous planets. The peaceful Eldari were asking for human protection from aggressive neighbors who used biological weapons. Even the isolationist hegemony of fear was requesting diplomatic contact. Captain Webb was too busy dealing with the shadow maws to pay attention to galactic politics. More creatures had appeared, and they all seemed fascinated by these beings who did not react properly to being bitten. Some of the younger shadow maws were playfully nipping at the humans like puppies testing their teeth. "This is remarkable," Officer Mills said as a juvenile shadow maw wrapped itself around his leg. "It is like they are trying to figure out what we are." Dr. Vorth was recording everything with his scientific equipment. "This changes everything we know about these creatures. We always assumed they were mindless killing machines. But look how they are behaving now that their primary weapon is useless." The shadow maws were indeed acting differently. Without the immediate satisfaction of watching their venom kill prey, they seemed uncertain about what to do next. Some were exploring the humans with gentle touches of their snouts. Others were making various sounds that might have been attempts at communication. Back on the horizon's edge, Dr. Kess was trying to understand the biological mechanism behind human immunity. Her preliminary analysis suggested that human liver function was somehow neutralizing the venom faster than it could cause damage. But the process was unlike anything in the scientific literature. The human immune system appears to treat Shadowmaw venom as a minor toxin, she reported to the growing audience of scientists listening to her transmissions. Their bodies are processing it the same way they might handle alcohol or caffeine. This revelation had staggering implications. If humans could neutralize Shadowmaw venom so easily, what other supposedly deadly toxins might be harmless to them? The galaxy was full of planets that had been declared uninhabitable due to poisonous atmospheres or venomous wildlife. The hegemony of fear had built their entire military strategy around biological weapons. For decades, they had terrorized smaller species by threatening to release captured Shadowmaws on their colony worlds. Now that threat was meaningless against humans. Dr. Kess, came an urgent transmission from an unknown source. This is Supreme Commander Thex of the Hegemony Military Forces. We demand immediate access to human biological samples for our research purposes. Dr. Kess ignored the transmission. She had more important concerns than dealing with the galaxy's most aggressive military power. Her medical scans were revealing new information about human biology that would require years of study to fully understand. Captain Webb, she called down to the planet. I need you and your team to return to the ship for detailed medical examination. What we are discovering could change how the entire galaxy views human capabilities. Webb looked around at the dozen Shadowmaws that were now lounging in the clearing like oversized cats. The deadly predators that had terrorized multiple species were acting like friendly pets around humans. Give us another hour, Webb replied. I think we are having a breakthrough in interspecies communication down here. Indeed, the largest Shadowmaw had begun making complex patterns of sounds that seemed almost musical. When Webb attempted to copy the sounds, the creature responded with what looked like excitement. For the first time in recorded history, someone was having a conversation with a Shadowmaw. The rescue mission had become something far more significant than anyone had planned. In the space of a few hours, humans had gone from being unknown newcomers to the most strategically important species in the galaxy. Every government and military force was now reevaluating their policies based on human biological capabilities. Dr. Kess continued her medical scans, documenting the impossible reality that was unfolding before her instruments. The data would be studied for generations, but the immediate impact was already clear. Humanity had just become the most valuable ally and the most dangerous enemy that any species could imagine. The news of human immunity to Shadowmaw venom spread across the galaxy faster than any scientific discovery in recorded history. Within 24 hours, every major government and military organization had emergency sessions to discuss the implications. The impossible had become reality, and it was reshaping galactic politics in ways no one had anticipated. Ambassador David Park found himself in the most important diplomatic position any human had ever held. He stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of Concordia Prime, the neutral station where all major species conducted their most serious negotiations. Around him sat representatives from 43 different civilizations, all wanting to understand what humans were and what they wanted. Ambassador Park, began High Chancellor Velenus of the Alterian Republic, her blue skin flickering with nervous patterns. We must discuss the strategic implications of your species' biological capabilities. The balance of power in this galaxy has shifted overnight. Park looked around the room at faces that ranged from curious to frightened to calculating. Some of these species had been enemies for centuries. Others had maintained uneasy truces based on mutual fear of biological weapons. Now everything had changed. With respect, Chancellor, humans did not ask for this situation, Park replied calmly. We were simply trying to rescue stranded scientists. We had no idea that our biology would cause such a reaction. From across the room, War Chief Draker of the Breathen Empire stood up. His massive frame and scarred features made him an intimidating presence even among other warrior species. But now that you know, what do you intend to do with this advantage? Before Park could answer, an urgent transmission interrupted the session. The image of Supreme Commander Thex appeared on the main screen. His pale, angular features and black eyes marked him as a member of the Kethver species that led the hegemony of fear. "Greetings to the Assembly," Thex said in a voice that carried no emotion. "I bring news that concerns all present. 3 hours ago, we conducted an experiment to test the limits of human immunity to biological weapons." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The hegemony had captured humans for testing. "We acquired a human traitor named Rachel Murphy from a civilian transport," Thex continued. "She was injected with concentrated shadow maw venom in quantities sufficient to kill every representative in your current assembly. The results were unexpected." The transmission switched to security footage showing a human woman strapped to a medical table. Automated systems injected her with vials of glowing green liquid. The amount of venom being pumped into her body would have been lethal to an entire city of most species. "As you can see," Thex narrated, "the subject shows no signs of distress. In fact, she appears to be growing stronger." On the screen, Rachel Murphy was testing the strength of her restraints. The metal straps that should have held anyone secure were beginning to bend under her efforts. After several minutes, she broke free entirely and sat up on the table. "That itched a bit," she said, rubbing the injection sites on her arms. We done here? I have deliveries to make." The footage ended with Rachel Murphy walking out of the medical facility while armed guards backed away from her in terror. No one tried to stop her. "This experiment has led to disturbing conclusions," Thex continued. "Not only are humans immune to our most powerful biological weapons, but exposure to these toxins may actually enhance their physical capabilities. This represents an unacceptable threat to galactic security." Ambassador Park felt the mood in the room shift. Fear was replacing curiosity in many of the alien faces around him. The hegemony's revelation had turned human immunity from a useful trait into something that looked like a superpower. "Supreme Commander," Park said carefully, "your organization kidnapped and tortured a civilian. That is a clear violation of galactic law." "Galactic law assumes all species are equally vulnerable," Thex replied. "Humans appear to be something else entirely. We demand immediate access to human genetic material for defense research purposes." The demand triggered angry responses from multiple representatives. The peaceful Eldari were appalled by the hegemony's actions. The proud Bruthen declared that kidnapping civilians was dishonorable. Even the normally neutral Veltar criticized the illegal experimentation, but Park could see that fear was winning over moral outrage. If humans were truly immune to biological weapons and grew stronger from exposure to toxins, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? "Representatives," Park said, standing to address the assembly, "I understand your concerns. But humans have no desire to dominate or threaten anyone. We want the same things as most species here: peaceful trade, scientific cooperation, and the freedom to explore and settle new worlds." "Easy words to say when you hold all the advantages," muttered Councillor Zephyr of the Mining Consortium. "Why should we believe that humans will not use their immunity to seize control of planets that no one else can inhabit?" It was a fair question. Cathara 7 was just one of hundreds of worlds that had been abandoned due to biological hazards. If humans could safely colonize all of them, they would control enormous amounts of territory and resources. "Because we do not need to take anything by force," Park replied. "We are willing to share the benefits of our immunity through cooperation and partnership." This offer sparked immediate interest from several delegations. The Veltar quickly proposed joint mining operations on previously uninhabitable worlds. The Eldari suggested that human colonies could serve as safe refuges for other species fleeing biological warfare. Even some of the Bruthan warriors seemed intrigued by the possibility of fighting alongside troops who were immune to enemy toxins, but the hegemony was not interested in cooperation. Humans represent an existential threat to the established order, Vex declared. If they cannot be controlled, they must be eliminated before they become too powerful. The threat was clear and immediate. Several species that had been considering alliances with humanity suddenly looked uncertain. No one wanted to be caught between humans and the hegemony's military might. That would be a mistake, War Chief Draker said unexpectedly. My people have studied the combat footage from Kithara 7. Humans show no fear when facing deadly opponents. They think quickly under pressure and work together effectively. These are qualities that warriors respect. The Bruthan Empire's endorsement carried weight in military circles. If the galaxy's most respected fighters believed humans would make good allies, other species began to reconsider their positions, but the political situation was becoming more complex by the hour. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy of similar discoveries about human biological capabilities. A human medical team on Veltar Prime had survived exposure to atmospheric toxins that should have killed them instantly. Human miners in the Outer Rim were working in conditions that required other species to wear full environmental suits. We need time to study these developments, Chancellor Velenus said finally. But it is clear that human capabilities extend far beyond what we initially understood. This assembly will remain in session until we can establish new protocols for interspecies relations. As the session recessed, Ambassador Park found himself surrounded by delegates wanting private meetings. Some offered trade agreements and alliance proposals. Others made veiled threats about what might happen if humans became too ambitious. The galaxy was realizing that everything had changed. For thousands of years, biological warfare had been the ultimate equalizer between species. Toxins did not care about technology or military strength. But humans had apparently evolved beyond such concerns. In the space of a single day, humanity had gone from being newcomers seeking their place in galactic civilization to being the most strategically important species anyone could remember. The question now was whether the rest of the galaxy would accept humans as partners, or see them as threats that needed to be contained. Either way, there was no going back to the way things had been before Captain Webb laughed off a Shadowmaw bite and changed the balance of power in the universe. 6 months after the first human landing on Kithara 7, the planet had become the most unlikely success story in galactic colonization history. What had once been considered a death world was now home to a thriving human settlement of 5,000 people. The crystal forests that had hidden deadly predators were now walking paths where children played safely. Colony. Administrator Beth Turner stood on the observation deck of the main settlement building, watching the morning routine unfold. Below her, human families were going about their daily lives in ways that would have seemed impossible to other species. Children ran through the crystal groves with juvenile shadowmaws chasing after them like oversized puppies. Adults used full-grown shadowmaws for everything from transportation to construction work. The delegation from the hegemony will arrive in 2 hours, her assistant informed her. They have requested a full demonstration of human shadowmaw interaction protocols. Turner nodded but kept watching the scene below. A group of kindergarten students was having their daily nature walk, accompanied by their teacher and 3 adult shadowmaws who served as both guides and protectors. The site that had once represented certain death for any galactic citizen was now just another part of life for human children. The changes went far beyond Kithara 7. Human colonies were sprouting up on dozens of worlds that had been abandoned due to biological hazards. The poison gardens of Veltar 3, where atmospheric toxins killed most visitors within hours, now hosted a thriving agricultural research station. The acid rain planet of Morden had become a valuable mining operation after humans discovered they could work in the open air with only basic protective clothing. Administrator Turner, came a transmission from the landing pad. The diplomatic shuttle is requesting permission to land. Permission granted, Turner replied. Send them to conference room Alpha. I will meet them there. The delegation that arrived was unlike any that had visited the colony before. Representatives from the hegemony of fear were accompanied by former enemies who had become unlikely allies. Bruthan warriors stood beside peaceful Eldari diplomats. Veltar miners chatted with Altarian scientists. The shared concern about human capabilities had created cooperation between species that had been fighting for generations. Supreme Commander Thex led the hegemony group into the conference room. His pale features showed the strain of recent political upheavals. The military organization that had terrorized multiple species for decades was losing power as their biological weapons became useless against human-protected worlds. Administrator Turner, Thex began carefully, we come to discuss new arrangements for galactic security. Recent events have made it clear that previous agreements are no longer viable. Turner gestured for everyone to take seats around the large conference table. Through the transparent walls, they could see human colonists going about their work while shadow moths moved freely among them. What specific arrangements did you have in mind? Turner asked. It was War Chief Draketer who answered first. The Bruthan Empire formally requests alliance agreements with human colonies. Our warriors wish to train alongside humans who show no fear of biological weapons. This was followed by similar requests from other delegations. The Veltar wanted mining partnerships on hazardous worlds. The Eldari sought protection agreements for their peaceful colonies. Even the Altarians were proposing joint scientific research projects to better understand human biology, but it was the hegemony's proposal that surprised everyone. We offer complete disarmament of our biological weapons programs, Thex announced. In exchange, we request human assistance in transitioning our military forces to conventional warfare methods. The admission represented a complete reversal of hegemony policy. For decades, they had refused all disarmament proposals. Now they were volunteering to abandon their primary military advantage because it was no longer effective against humans. That is a significant offer, Turner replied. But why should we trust an organization that kidnapped and experimented on human civilians? Thex looked uncomfortable but maintained his composure. Because we have learned that opposing humans is futile. Your people have already proven that biological warfare cannot harm them. Several worlds under our protection have requested human defenders instead of our forces. Our choice is cooperation or irrelevance. Through the conference room windows, they could see a demonstration that proved his point. A group of human teenagers was playing a game that involved being chased by adult shadow moths through the crystal forest. What had once been the galaxies? Most feared predators were now participating in recreational activities. The real question, said Chancellor Velenus, is what humans want from these new arrangements. You now have access to resources and territory that no other species can safely claim. What are your intentions for galactic politics? Turner had been expecting this question. Human colonies were indeed expanding rapidly into previously uninhabitable areas. The economic and strategic advantages were enormous, but the human response had surprised many observers. We want what we have always wanted, Turner replied. Peaceful coexistence, fair trade, and the freedom to explore and settle new worlds. We have no interest in dominating other species or controlling galactic politics. Then why are you sharing your immunity advantages so freely? Asked Counselor Zephyr. Human medical teams are treating poisoning victims across the galaxy. Your researchers are developing antidotes to toxins that have plagued our species for centuries. This generosity seems too good to be true. It was a fair observation. Human scientists had indeed been sharing their research on biological immunity with other species. Several breakthrough treatments had already been developed that could help non-humans survive previously lethal toxins. The technology was being offered freely rather than being used as a tool for political leverage. Because that is who we are. Turner said simply, humans help others when they can. It is not a calculated political strategy, it is just what we do. The delegates exchanged glances that showed varying degrees of skepticism and wonder. Most species made decisions based on careful analysis of advantages and disadvantages. The idea of helping others without expecting direct benefits was difficult for many galactic politicians to understand. "Perhaps we can observe your colony operations," suggested Dr. Kess, who had become the leading expert on human biology. "Seeing how humans interact with shadow moths might help us understand your species better." Turner agreed and led the group outside to where the afternoon activities were beginning. A group of human children were having their daily playtime with young shadow moths. The creatures that had killed trained warriors were now involved in games of tag and hide-and-seek. "This is impossible," whispered one of the hegemony observers. "Those children should be terrified." Instead, the children were laughing as shadow moths gently nipped at their arms and legs. The venom that would have killed any other species was apparently producing a pleasant tingling sensation that the children enjoyed. "The shadow moths seem to like humans as much as humans like them," Turner explained. "Once they realized their venom was not harmful, they became curious about us. Now they seek out human contact." The demonstration continued with adult colonists, showing how they worked alongside full-grown shadow moths. The creatures were helping with construction projects, serving as transportation through difficult terrain, and even assisting with child care. The deadly predators had become integrated into human society as partners rather than pets. As the day progressed, more impossible sights became routine. Human workers were handling toxic materials with bare hands while other species required full environmental suits. Children were playing in areas where the very air contained enough poison to kill most galactic citizens. Adults were swimming in water that contained concentrations of venom that should have been instantly lethal. "Your species has redefined what is possible for biological life forms," Dr. Kess observed. "The implications go far beyond military applications. You are showing us that entire categories of environments we considered uninhabitable might actually be perfectly safe for humans." By the end of the visit, even the most skeptical delegates had to admit that human capabilities were genuine and apparently unlimited when it came to biological hazards. The question was no longer whether humans could survive in environments that killed other species, but rather how the galaxy would adapt to this new reality. As the diplomatic shuttle prepared to leave, Supreme Commander Thex approached Turner privately. "Administrator, I must ask directly, do humans have any biological weaknesses at all?" Turner smiled and pointed to where Captain Webb was having his daily conversation with the largest shadow moth on the planet. The creature had learned to communicate through a complex series of sounds and gestures. "We get sunburned easily," she said, "and most of us cannot digest certain plant proteins very well." It was a reminder that humans were still biological creatures with normal limitations. They just happened to be immune to most of the toxins that other species found deadly. The shuttle departed carrying representatives who would spend months trying to explain to their governments what they had witnessed. The galaxy was entering a new era where the rules of biology and warfare had been rewritten by a species that treated deadly venom like a mild irritation. In the crystal forests of Kithara 7, human children continued to play with creatures that had once been the stuff of nightmares. The universe had become a much larger and more welcoming place, simply because one human had laughed when something tried to kill him and called it just a little tingle.